I'm going to open the meeting. It's 6 o'clock. This is the Board of Selectmen's meeting. If I can get a motion to waive the reading of the Zoom.
So moved.
Whitman seconds.
And roll call.
Clock eye.
Whitman aye.
And Nichols eye. And this is for a public hearing. If I can, for the tax classification hearing. This hearing is being held on the issue of determining a residential factor, thereby determining the percentages of tax burden to be borne by each class of property for the fiscal year 2022. And can I get a motion to open the hearing? Go ahead.
So moved.
Let's open it. Okay. It's open. All right. So I guess who's starting?
Harold's gonna just take this one over.
Yes. So I think you can all hear me okay, and I'm delighted that my colleague Amy has joined us, or joined you.
I'm sorry, just for the people at home, can you just identify who you are, because they won't be able to recognize you
Sure.
speaking. Sorry.
Sure. My name is Harold Scheid. I am a regional tax assessor with Regional Resource Group. I've worked with the town of Rutland. I was just taking stock. We must be somewhere around 8 or 9 years that we've served the town in the capacity of tax assessors. And I'm joined tonight with by my colleague Amy, who comes to us recently from the town of Holden Assessor's Office, and she's serving as an associate assessor for 3 towns, Rutland being Rutland, West Boylston, and Boylston being the area communities that she serves. The tax classification hearing is usually the shortest hearing that comes before the Board of Selectmen, or what we now call these the Select Board. I don't know what your local custom is yet, but in any case, the Select Board is required at the end of each year preceding the third quarter tax billing to take up one question. And that question is whether or not to levy a single tax rate across all classes of property, that'd be residential, commercial, industrial, and personal property, or alternatively shift the burden onto the commercial and industrial property owners to yield a lower tax rate on residential properties. For reasons that we'll get to here in a minute, Rutland has, like many communities, chosen to adopt a uniform tax rate. The small size of the commercial industrial base and the complexion of that base, I hate to use the word mom and pops, but most of the commercial property owners in town are of that character, smaller local residents. We don't have a large contingent of office complexes and large shopping malls and such that some of the communities that do split tax rates have. I prepared actually, I don't want to take all the credit because I think Amy pulled this document together for you. If you have this as part of your packet, I'm going to reference the document, just pointing out a few key pieces of information along the way. When I conclude here in a couple of minutes, I'll entertain any questions you have and try to answer them as best as I can. So we are looking to raise through property taxation $18,342,945 tax revenue. That's up a bit from last year. The property tax, as people most people know, is the single largest revenue source coming into the town to fund the budget. That budget was adopted earlier in the year at an annual town meeting. I don't recall the exact percentage, but I believe that the property tax levy funds upwards of 70% of that town budget. Rutland, like a few communities these days, enjoys a healthy new revenue growth coming from new construction. Anybody that has driven around town knows that there has been a lot of new construction. That new construction this year will yield about $436,000 in new tax revenue over and above what Proposition 2.5 allows for, which is another $405,000. So all told, we're looking at about $841,000 in new property tax revenue, all again intended to fund the town budget. Take you to the next page. Hold it up here. You'll see the distribution of the tax base among the four major classes. The key point here is that the residential sector makes up about 94% of the total taxable base, leaving about 5.5% to commercial and industrial property owners. You do the math, and it basically that distribution of value would require a 20% increase in commercial taxes to yield a 1% reduction to the residential property owner. So a strong increase for very little in the way of a residential tax reduction. And for that reason, the Board of Assessors has traditionally, and again this year, recommends that the Board of Selectmen adopt a single tax rate. It isn't final yet, but we're projecting that our tax rate will go down from last year's $16.70 per thousand to an estimated $15.79 per thousand. I qualify this this tax rate, this new tax rate, by saying that until the Department of Revenue weighs in and reviews all of the town's submittals, what we call the annual tax recap, that tax rate might be subject to change, though unlikely. I think $15.79 is what we'll end up with at the end of the day. So tax impacts to property owners. Again, the residential property class, and specifically the single family class, subclass, makes up the biggest share of the tax base. We're forecasting an average residential tax bill that will go from $5,356 to $5,518. That's about a $162 increase. So one of the questions that people will often raise is, well, wait a second, you just said the tax rate's going down. Why would we be paying more in taxes? Well, that really is a function of a larger budget, greater budget needs, and along with that, the need to raise the property tax levy. So where's the disconnect? Well, the disconnect, it really comes in valuations. The valuations that our office will be introducing with the third quarter billing. Those valuations are up, and up on the order of about 10%. The residential market for real estate has really surged. I want to just comment that because values reflect historic value and not current value, and our current assessments are really based on market conditions that existed in calendar year 2020, that surge in property values carried carries forward to this year, 2021, and will influence next year's values, where we're anticipating potentially a 15 to 18% increase, additional increase in valuation next year. Anybody that's read the papers or even take a note knows that the real estate market has just gone crazy for a lot of reasons that I won't elaborate on, but Rutland, like many communities, is seeing an incredible surge in property values. So higher values, lower tax rate will yield a tax increase to the average owner about $162 for the year. So I offer on the last page a proposed motion that would, when read and adopted, yield a single tax rate across all of the classes of property. With that, I will entertain any questions you might have.
Is anybody on the board?
Nope. Peter Crane, Way, I have a fast question. This is a tax rate for fiscal year 22 that we're halfway through?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank
it's kind of a bizarre set of laws that we operate under, where we're actually setting assessments and tax rates mid-year. The first two quarters in the fiscal year, the bills that the first and second quarter bills that go out are based on last year's tax, and we call those estimated or preliminary tax bills. The full tax for the year is revealed to property owners in their January bills. Whatever they paid up to that point is subtracted from that newly calculated total, and then the third and fourth quarter installments make up for whatever needs to be collected to yield the total tax for the year.
That is unique to Massachusetts, by the way. It's not like Connecticut doesn't do it that way, but that is a thing with the Mass law.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody on the board have any questions, comments?
Nope. Basic, we hear the same thing.
Okay, we'll get a motion to close the hearing and then vote, right?
I think
Yep. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Whitman seconds.
Okay,
Clock eye.
Whitman, aye.
and Nichols eye. Thank you very much, and if I can get a motion.
Whitman makes a motion that the Rutland Board of Selectmen votes in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 56, as amended, the percentage of local tax levy which will be borne by each class of real and personal property relative to setting the fiscal year 2022 tax rate, and set the residential factor at 1.0 with a corresponding CIP shift of 1.0, pending approval of the town's annual tax recap by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue.
Second.
Roll call,
Clock eye.
Whitman, aye.
and Nichols eye.
Thank you, Harold.
Thank you,
Amy.
thank you very much.
And that goes in the
Very
meeting. We're all set. Good luck.
Well, thank
Motion
you.
to
It's
adjourn.
my pleasure.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you.
Oh, you got other stuff?
No, I don't. Motion to adjourn.
Whitman seconds.
Roll call,
Clock eye.
Whitman, aye.
Nichols eye.